Hi, I'm Robin Elliott. I was interviewed recently for a podcast by my friend Stefan Arneo. Stefan is really a smart guy. And at the end of the interview, he asked me a very compelling question. He asked me, Robin, if you were to give your younger self advice, what would that advice be? And, that stayed with me for a long time afterwards. I thought to myself, what advice would I give myself? You know, And what's my younger self? Well, yesterday I was younger. I'm 65 today. So yesterday I was 64 or something. I was 65 less. So I was younger yesterday. So what advice did I give my younger self? And I thought, well, what am I good at? Well, I'm in business. I think I'm reasonably good at leverage and collaboration. But in life, what am I really good at is change. Why? Because I've changed a lot in my life. A lot of changes have come about in my life, and I really enjoyed them. By the time I was 17, I'd lived in 18 different places, gone to multiple different schools. I've lived in different countries. I've immigrated to Canada with my wife. I've been married, divorced, remarried, step family. I've been through near bankruptcy. I've done well. I've done all sorts of things. I've worked with many business owners, thousands of them in different countries, in different situations, and learned from them. And so throughout life, change has been a constant in my life, and change is a constant for most people's lives. But mine, I think it's been like more, more than most people. So, and I don't fear change. I have a way of dealing with change, and it's always worked for me. So I thought, well, that's something I could share with myself, and that would help. And then I started thinking, what kind of changes do people go through? They go through marriage, divorce, remarriage, death, sickness, and some of these changes are planned for, and some people are not. Some changes come about that they're not planned for. They just hit us, but amongst the eyes, suddenly, unexpectedly. So you could go to prison, you could come out of prison, you could go into witness protection, you could go to college, you could graduate, you could find a job, you could lose a job, you could get fired, you could become pregnant, whether you wanted to or not. Babies can be born, death of a loved one, going into a seniors residence, or your mom going into seniors residence, or becoming disabled, and all these changes are happening constantly in our lives, good and bad. Now, the way we deal with those changes will make all the difference. We can change and we can start over well, or we can start over badly. We can make good changes in the process and benefit from that, or we can make bad choices. So I thought, the more I thought about this, the more I thought, wow, this could help a lot of people, this information. So because we're constantly going through changes, you get rich, you lose money, you get ripped off, you win the lottery, all these things happen. And as I say, some are expected, some are not. What tools would we need? Mental, emotional tools, spiritual tools would we need to cope well? When we start over, because we're constantly starting over. Change implies starting over. I met a guy who was blind. He tried to commit suicide. He held the gun and he pulled the gun away at the last minute, as many do, and shot his eyes out. And he said, Robin, going blind was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, it's amazing, but the way he coped with that solved many of the problems he had before that. And this happens. I spoke to a woman who was in Ravensbrück, which is a German concentration camp, and she told me how she coped there and how she started over afterwards. A friend of mine in South Africa, I did a lot of business with him, for him, and this fellow was a very wealthy man, and his uncle and father came out of Auschwitz, and they came to South Africa as very poor. They had virtually no money as immigrants to South Africa. And these pharmacists, they were chemists, they said to themselves, what is the opportunity here? You know what? They became billionaires. And it's an interesting story if you ever want to hear it. So anyway, long story short, I thought we're all going to start over constantly. Starting over in difficult situations, in good situations, we want to make right choices. So I decided to write a little book. No fluff, just the real stuff. 100 pages, to the point, direct, not politically correct, not sparing any feelings, just telling the truth, because the truth will set you free. Liars will always get you into trouble, right? And if you know me, you know I don't care whether you agree with me or not. I'm going to tell you the truth, and only the truth will help you ultimately. So here's a little book. It's called Starting Over, How to Do It Well. I hope you like it. I know it'll help you if you apply the principles. And you might know somebody else who you would want to give this to, somebody who's going through a difficult situation or a big change. Either way, it will help them if they apply the principles. So that's my little message to you today. And this is a great place, by the way, where I'm wandering around, lurking on this little knoll. They call it a knoll. It's like a little hillock, but it's really beautiful here. And so I thought I'd film it up here where I wouldn't have dogs barking, but I have had the odd helicopter irritating me. But apart from that, it hasn't been too bad. But you can see it's really beautiful up here. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the book, and that's me signing out.